Hello, everybody. Welcome to another podcast episode. We have our guest, Corey, one of our very own trainers here, and we're stoked to have him. We're going to be talking about some fun topics today around business, parenting, and general health and fitness. So, actually, I'm going to redo that.
Okay.
I want to do my intro before I introduce you.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the BpFit podcast, where we believe having a community rooted in wellness can help you achieve your biggest, wildest dreams, whether that be career, fitness, or health. So today we have one of our very own, Corey, on today. He's a trainer here at Bigger Picture Fitness, and we are excited to hear some insight on what he has to say. So Corey, how long have you been a trainer for, and what really got you into personal training?
As far as professionally training, I think I started in 2016 doing online coaching for some clients. I was still in the Marines until about 2017. So I started working with people online, and then that was kind of like my exit strategy for getting out of the military, was to take something I was really passionate about and there was a demand for, and start doing that professionally. So 2016, 8 years or so now.
Okay.
Did you ask me what got me into it?
And kind of what sparked the passion of that is going to be the direction I go when I get out.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think that just kind of came naturally to me because it was something that I was doing for myself, obviously working out. I was doing bodybuilding competitions at the time. I've been an athlete my whole life. So it's something that I just love to do, like results or not, I don't really care. I love to be active. I love to use my body for what it's made for. And then people would start coming to me for advice in the gym, at work. And I just saw it as like a good opportunity to do something that I love, but that could also be my career. So I kind of just transitioned from the military into coaching, and it's been a fun ride since.
Nice. What was bodybuilding like during in service? How was that prepping? I can't imagine that combination.
It's really hard because being a Marine, the daily lifestyle is very active. Yeah. We have to use our bodies a lot. We're not always getting the best rest.
Exactly.
We don't always have the opportunity to eat what we want when we want. So the meal timing and just devoting the time to the training required was, that was challenging at times.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in the field and you have to eat the little MREs, the meals ready to eat.
Yep.
Sometimes you get a couple hours of sleep and that's it. But, our motto in the Marine Corps is adapt and overcome. So I was able to figure out a way, plus the fact that I was getting out and, I kind of had one foot out the door. My command was really pretty cool, and they kind of let me do my thing. So.
Yeah. No, that's impressive.
It worked. Yeah, it was challenging for sure, but there's a lot of Marines out there and a lot of service members in general that do it. So where there's a will, there's a way.
Cool. So, and then did you immediately get into independent training, or did you, how did you learn how to be a trainer, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've never really worked at a corporate gym other than coaching at F45 for kind of like a side hustle. It's something I like to do. It's really good for networking. You meet a lot of people there. But at the time, so when I was still active duty, my wife at the time was training at a 24-hour fitness. That was her getting her firsthand experience. And she loved it, but she didn't really like working in the corporate sector. She saw all the opportunity to, make the sales, basically in a way that benefits both the trainer and the client, meaning clients can pay a little less for training. Trainers can keep 100% of the profits. So she saw it as a no-brainer to go straight into independent training. When I was getting out, I was in the Marines for 10 years, so I was like, I kind of want a little bit more stability.
Totally.
And I was thinking about going into a 24-hour fitness. I actually applied for one when I got out, and they were going to hire me. But it was right when I got out and we moved back to California was when Self-Made San Marcos was opening. So she walked in those doors and she's like, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah, that's a dream, any private facility.
Exactly, when you're just here, it takes away all the overhead of running your own gym. All the upfront costs of getting the equipment, all the logistics that go into it, that was a home for trainers like us. Just like here at BpFit, So she saw that as a huge opportunity. I was a little let me go get my feet wet, corporate training. I've had an employer for the last 10 years. I've had stability. So I was going to do that, but then she just talked me into, I'm pretty easily influenced. So it didn't take her long. She's like, just do it with me, trust me, we'll make this happen. So I went straight from the Marine Corps into independent training at Self-Made. I actually got hired on to 24-Hour Fitness La Costa. And I was going to pursue that for a little bit, but her kind of nudging me to go to Self-Made, and then me already getting a taste of the corporate sector and the delays and kind of how unprofessional they were, I was like, you know what? Let's freaking do this.
Yeah.
Like, I had a lot on the line. You know, I just got out of the Marines. We didn't really have a lot of savings in place. We didn't have a crazy like developed plan or anything.
Right.
And we had a son at the time, so it was definitely a big risk for us, but you know, I guess having the right partner and you know, having that confidence can really kind of push you to take those risks. So
totally.
We did it, and I'm definitely happy we did that. Didn't have to go through the whole corporate style training.
Yeah. That's all it takes is that first step a lot of the time. I have very similar, like, I was kind of forced to go out into independent, whereas I wanted to stay, like, I wouldn't say where I was at was super corporate, but it's definitely more corporate. Like, it is, I'm working for someone, like, someone's my employer.
Yeah.
So there's that difference. And I was happy, or so I thought, and was going to intend on staying there. Something pushed me to do it, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Kind of open your eyes
like,
to it, huh?
Why didn't I do this earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
no, go ahead.
There's a lot of benefits. Obviously, like I said, you know, we can charge less in a corporate gym and we make more at the same time. But even things like...
You mean a private gym?
Being at a private gym as opposed to working at a corporate gym.
Right.
I can charge my clients less. So let's say instead of paying $1,200 for the month, they're paying $800. And I'm getting $800 rather than getting like $400 out of that.
And the person doing the actual work's getting all of it.
Exactly. But... I think what's more important that a lot of people don't realize is like you can do it your way. You can grow your brand.
Totally.
You don't have the micromanagement. I don't have to train how they want me to train. I can use my own philosophies and my own experience to better people's lives.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That to me is the awesome part.
Being able to branch out, and there's so many different ways. Just like, let's say, like religion, like there's something that fits for everyone in a sense that is going to lead you to your spirituality. Similar to fitness, it's like there's something that's going to click with someone. So as a trainer, why wouldn't I want to offer something that could find that niche with someone or change their life, really, if you can introduce them to fitness with new ways.
Exactly.
Then, you know, a corporate place wants you to do it.
Yeah, it's authenticity. Yeah. Like when you get to be yourself and do what you love, how you love, I think it just makes for a much better value for the clients. And, you know, they're getting the real you, they're getting your experience, not like, hey, this is how we do things and this is how you gotta do things. A lot of freedom.
Yeah, so did you know that they've done, like, are you familiar with, like, the emotional spectrum scale, but also just that, like, emotions are associated with frequency?
Not so much.
Okay, so they did a scan, and the most powerful, like, emotion or feeling that exists frequency-wise is authenticity. Okay. More than joy, more than love, more than happiness. Yeah. It's like authenticity is the most powerful thing that you can have.
I mean,
embody, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, if you're always wearing a mask or doing things in another person's, you know, the way another person wants you to, it doesn't feel good. That's for sure.
But I think that that's important in business specifically. Like, I think people feel like they have to lose that to be successful in certain fields specifically, whereas it's actually the opposite.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you'd be trapped if that, you know, and that's what happens to a lot of trainers that go to a corporate gym is they feel trapped in that and they're not being themselves, you know, so it's definitely some freedom there. Yeah, for sure.
Totally. So speaking of self-made San Marcos, self-made, you ended up owning that gym for a little bit. Yep. What led to that venture? Speaking of taking risks, that's a good one.
So ever since I got out of the Marines, like I said, me and my partner at the time, you know, she was really good at kind of pushing me. Yeah. I was kind of good at pushing her, so it felt like we were just progressively taking a bigger and bigger risk. You know, first it was independent training, then it was buying a gym, having a kid, going to Thailand, like all the crazy things we've done. It just kind of like, it seemed like we kept climbing out of our comfort zone and then becoming comfortable and then going into that next step out of your comfort zone. But I think, you know, most gym rats or meatheads or athletes or whatever, you know, people who want to be a trainer, whether it's corrective exercise, athletic performance, bodybuilding, I think most of us have this like innate desire to be a gym owner one day. You know, I think that's like the end goal for a lot of people who are getting into training is like, I want to train, but then eventually I want to have my own gym. Yeah. And so we're no different. Like we were in that same exact place. We were just really good at making things happen. Yeah. So we made it happen. Yeah. You know, we ended up owning Self-Made San Marcos for about 3 years, and then I also was contracted to manage the Oceanside location for about a year.
Cool.
But yeah, just progressively taking bigger and bigger risks.
Yeah. So that's there's like a theory around that. I think it's called like set point theory, which is that your own ceiling is only going to be what you believe you've had before, or like your subconscious is always going to be comfortable with a certain amount of money that you've been making. And so when there's an opportunity to make more of that money, you're subconsciously, out of fear, can choose things that keep you at your set point that you're comfortable with. And so like sometimes the bigger the risk, the better, because it teaches your subconscious to break that scale a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
So that sounds, yeah.
No, absolutely. When you were actually talking about the greatest emotion on the spectrum, I thought you were going to say fear.
Okay,
because
yeah.
Fear is it's like one of the biggest motivators
That could be true in negative, but I meant positive.
Yeah.
Like positive, most powerful. There's definitely an equal polar to that of negative.
And that's probably
it's
the
probably
case with fear.
fear.
Yeah. Fear holds people back a lot.
Totally.
Fear of failure, or stepping outside of that comfort zone, going
Probably
to that
is.
next point of
Yeah.
whatever your capacity is. It's definitely, I think it's everybody feels that fear.
Totally.
Taking the next step.
Yeah. Speaking from my own experience of being a trainer and also helping administration of a gym, what did you like or not like about that? Did it not feel like your calling? Did it feel like your calling because you became a trainer to help people?
Yes.
Not to say you can't do that. It changes your day to day. Not to say you can't do that as a gym owner. It just changes your day to day.
Oh, no, absolutely. And, everything to me comes down to perspective. It's like how you view things, what your intentions are behind everything you do. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people who want to get into gym ownership don't realize is, we have this like fantasy that I'm going to own this gym, so it's going to empower me to be more fit and to do more. But the reality is when you take on more responsibility like that, it actually kind of makes it harder. Yep. I'm sure you've experienced this, like, maybe you used to go to the gym for 2 hours every day.
Yeah.
And now you're like, let me try to get 2 hours a weekend because you're busy. You got more responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. So that fantasy is there, but then also kind of, like I said, the perspective you choose to take, because for me, I looked at it as, hey, I'm a trainer, I'm coaching 20 clients. Mm-hmm. I'm impacting 20 people's lives in a very positive way. I'm making their lives better. Very fulfilling and very rewarding for me. Mm-hmm. But when I went into ownership and I had 35 trainers underneath me, I looked at that as I'm now impacting 35 trainers.
Yeah.
Any clients I'm training, I'm still training clients, maybe not as many clients, but I'm still training clients. Mm-hmm. But I'm also impacting all these trainers in a way where they're impacting 20 clients. Mm-hmm. So whereas I was impacting 20 people on a day-to-day basis as a trainer, now it's in the hundreds. Mm-hmm. Might be a little bit more indirectly, but I'm helping these trainers succeed, and therefore they are helping others succeed. So if you look at it as like, in that perspective, then I was just impacting more people in a positive way.
Yeah.
So it was very fulfilling for me.
No, that's a beautiful way to think of it. Yeah.
And I loved it. Like the responsibility was more. My personal freedoms kind of went away a little bit, but viewing it in that way definitely allowed me to be grateful for that position I had, and to really I loved it. Yeah. Plans kind of changed. Me and my spouse went into it. It was supposed to be like a team effort, and then she ended up having our second born, which caused a lot of postpartum depression, stuff like that. So she kind of had to back out. Yeah. So definitely the plans changed, and that's probably why we didn't continue to grow on that path. It happens. But as far as the actual responsibilities and the duties of being the gym owner, I just saw it as more impact I was making. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. One way that I learned recently or heard of a way to think of responsibility is ability to respond. So as somebody who takes on too much often, I use that as a way to check, do I have the ability to respond to this before I take it on, or things like that. Yeah. So that's a good way to reframe things. Yeah, absolutely. Unless, of course, you're the type of person who sells yourself short, and needs to take on more. Well, no, when you look at it that way, though, there's probably a lot of people out there who see that and then they fear that they're not capable. Somebody like a trainer, an athlete, I think we kind of have a special ability to see potential in others and ourselves. So we are probably the kind that are going to take that mindset and grow with it, whereas, hey, that might strike fear in a lot of people, and they might say, I'm not able to do this. Yeah. When in reality, they are, Yeah. So, no, that's true. That's good. Yeah. It depends on perspective. You're the gym owner, so obviously you kind of have to have that mindset, and you kind of have to believe in yourself. Yeah,
totally. How has fitness helped you throughout your relationships?
Are you talking like spousal relationships or just
personal relationships in general?
Personal relationships?
Some of those that can be more intimate, yeah.
I mean, I guess there's, so many ways that it helps, but obviously being in the right frame of mind as myself allows me to, provide a better version of myself to other people. Energy's better, confidence is better, the self-belief, things like that. And then even growing into a place where now it's not just me, but I'm inspiring others. So maybe that, the love for fitness and the love for investing in myself is now rubbing off onto a spouse or friends or family members. But there's so many ways. It makes you a better person, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
It can help emotionally and spiritually. And that's, just like when we talk to people who have kids and they want to exercise, but they don't think they have time, or they don't see it as as being realistic. It's like, look, you might be sacrificing an hour away from your kids, but you're making a better version of yourself. And that better version is going to be able to provide for everybody else in your life.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's, unless it gets to a point to where you're, you become too obsessive about it, and now you're not wanting to spend time with anybody, or you're hyper focusing on it, on the nutrition, you won't go out to eat, things like that. Like there can be some downside, but if you have that good balance and you're doing it for the right reasons, you're being healthy, you're improving yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all that stuff, then to me it's all upside.
Yeah. Definitely. You, obviously, as you stated, but we know that you're an active parent.
Yes.
And what advice do you have to parents that are wanting to start getting into a fitness routine? What are the first steps that you recommend?
So for me, everything is mindset first, right? You have to be in the right frame of mind to take on any responsibility or to form any habit. So I think the one obstacle or like objection that people have most often is thinking that they're being selfish, or thinking that, an hour away from your kids a day, or even, 3 to 5 times a week is selfish. I think getting past that is really the first step, because once you realize and you believe that you're doing it for the right reasons, that you're going to have that positive impact on others, to include your kids, your spouse, your fellow employees, any relationship you have, then it makes it a little bit more motivating to do it, because you're like, this isn't selfish, this is actually improving what I can offer to everybody. So I'd say the first step is to get in the right mindset, understand that it's not selfish at all. If anything, you're doing this for everybody else. That's a huge thing to understand. And then parents typically, outside of that, the next thing is time. I'd say there's 2 big things with that. Is 1, having realistic expectations, and then 2, understanding what it's going to take to get to your goals. I think a lot of the times people think that you got to be in the gym 6 or 7 days a week, going hard for 2 hours to see any bit of results. But the reality is if, let's say you're lingering around the same weight, you're not going up or down, so you're kind of just in a maintenance level of calorie intake. Just walking for 20 minutes every single day is going to improve your fitness. It's going to improve your body weight, so you don't have to go into it thinking that you got to do anything crazy or anything excessive. Just understanding like, hey, being a little bit more active today is going to make me better, right? And then, that's the demand, and then having the expectations is, what do you expect of yourself? Are you expecting perfection? Are you expecting to see results right away? Having just very good and realistic expectations of what you can offer and what you can invest into it is going to be huge. So most everything for me is mindset, right? As far as like the actual physical steps to take, anything is better than nothing.
Right. So, and it sounds like you provided them, go for the low-hanging fruit is how I like to see it. Like, are you sleeping, eating, walking? Walking's so underrated.
It is.
Yeah, so you do those basic things. Make sure they're attainable. Don't compare yourself to people who don't have kids who can spend 6 hours, not 6 hours, 2 hours, 6 days a week and post it on Instagram. Things like that.
Yeah, for sure. It all comes down to the mindset. And then, another one is not being afraid to fail or come up short. I think if you go into it with realistic expectations, saying, hey, I think I can manage 3 or 4 days a week. And then one week, it's kind of a rough week, so you only get in there 2 days. Don't let that derail you.
Not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, right? Pick back up the next week, and you're still being consistent. So most of the battle, in my opinion, is the mental aspect. So you kind of get your mind in the right place, everything else kind of falls into place.
Definitely. I agree. You're also very big on, speaking of mindset, building habits and teaching people ways to do that, as it's super important in making changes in health. Do you have any habits that you can't imagine like your day without? Anything that sticks out to you?
So I'd say the first and most important habit for me is just consistency in lifestyle, meaning
or routines, morning routines.
Yeah, and it can be as simple as waking up at the same time every day. One big thing that I focus on is waking up on Saturday and Sunday at the same time that I wake up Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
It's hard for some people because they want to go out and enjoy the weekends, they want to party, they want to do whatever, but before your lifestyle, it has habits in place that are going to allow you to take the action. It's going to be very hard to stay consistent, right? And that's going to be very unmotivating. It's going to derail your progress. So for me, it's just, there's beauty in the basics.
Yeah.
Just wake up at the same time every day and go to bed at the same time, right?
Yep.
Start with something like that. Once you get that down after a week or two, then hey, I'm going to wake up at 6 every morning now, and then I'm going to go on a 20-minute walk to start my day. Basically habit stacking. So starting from the lifestyle and the routine, and then getting more specific as you go.
Totally.
I think most people have that backwards. They try to go too specific. They're like, my lifestyle is completely out of whack. Like there's no consistency or routine, but I'm going to get on this bodybuilding plan.
Yep. And it's like, how are you going to do that if you don't even know how to do anything first?
Exactly. Yeah. You got to crawl, walk, run.
And most people won't recognize the way or good habits that they do have. They're only going to notice the bad habits they have too when they're doing that self-reflection. I notice it's like, no, like you do this or whatever. You just maybe have to structure it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, speaking of habit stacking too, do you have any specific non-negotiables or like time, ways that you block out time that are non-negotiables?
So time blocking is actually something I've always struggled with. I'm not the best at unfortunately, and fortunately, sometimes I'm a very, very good procrastinator.
Yeah. So you're speaking to the queen.
I think a lot of people can relate to this.
Yeah.
But I procrastinate a lot, and I'm very good at it. So I kind of go based on the things that I think are more important or that I think I'm going to enjoy more.
Yeah.
But as far as like daily non-negotiables, again, things that are very simple, right?
Yeah.
If I'm taking 10,000 steps a day, I'm happy. Because that means I was being at least a little active every day.
Yeah.
I might not run 10 miles every day.
Totally.
That's the specifics, right? That's like the very challenging stuff. But I'm going to be somewhat active. It's the days where I don't do anything and it'll show on my watch because I'll have like 2,000 steps that day, probably didn't drink any water. And those are the days that are just the worst.
Yeah.
But let's say I have a training routine that I'm following and it's a 5-day split and I miss one workout day. That right there can be very derailing, like mindset wise. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to get my workout in today. It's too crazy of a day. I'm exhausted, but I'm still going to go on a walk. Like things like that, walking, for me, reading as well. I actually set a goal for 2024 to read 10 pages every single day.
Yeah.
And since January 1st, I've stuck to it.
Yeah.
And what I love about that goal is that it's so many people, when they get into it and they don't consider expectations, they might look at a goal like that as insignificant or small, like, 10,
oh my God. I've done that with the 10. I do that. I'm like, are you kidding me? I could do so much more. But then I do none of it.
Then you do none of it because you might go like the first 3 days reading an hour and a half a day. And then on the 4th day, you don't have an hour and a half to read, so you're going to look at that as a waste.
Yep.
But if you look at it as like, I'm going to read 10 pages every day, and you stick to that, and then on your best day, you can read for an hour straight.
Totally.
Cool. Or walk, or like a physical goal, right?
Yeah.
So definitely keeping things, like we talked about earlier, realistic and attainable.
Yep.
And then doing extra credit if needed. But don't set that extra credit, that heavy investment on a daily basis as your standard.
Yeah.
Because then once you can't hit that standard, you're going to feel like a failure.
Of course.
So definitely keeping things small, keeping them attainable.
Yeah.
And then again, on the better days, just do a whole lot more, and you're gonna feel really good about it.
Yeah.
But on those worst days, on the harder days, more challenging days, I think I can read 10 pages.
Totally.
I think I can walk for 20 minutes. Like on my worst day, unless my ankles are broken, I think I can walk for 10 minutes.
Learn how to make bread and butter before you're making a paella or something.
Exactly.
Whatever you want to call it.
A lot of people call it majoring in the minors.
Okay.
Meaning you're focusing so much on like the minor details, the specifics.
Right.
When reality is being healthy, it's very like general and basic.
Yes.
Right? Be a little bit more active, drink a little bit more water, eat a little bit more whole foods. Like that right there is 90% of what's going to change your life.
Yep.
It's the foundation, and it's not that hard when you think about it.
Totally.
But when we're focusing on the specifics, that workout program or the meal plan, that's when it's just, you gotta be perfect. You know?
Yep. Even professional athletes have this super intricate structured program, and they too, I mean, it's not often, but they too have to change things or miss a day every now and then.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it happens.
Life. Yeah. And life does happen for sure, and that's one thing that nobody can avoid.
Totally.
So
your advice is very clear that you want to make sure you're focused on the simple things to prevent that failure feeling or the after feeling of that. But do you have any quick tips or mindset shifts that you could offer if somebody is in that mode? Like they have had that feeling, because we've all been there. They feel like a failure. Do you have any tips on snapping out of that?
Well,
even if it's like a first step, like
I would say if you're somebody who has attempted to get like on the fitness train or improve your lifestyle multiple times, you've gotten fallen off, gotten on, fallen off. I think a really good thing is to just do a little self-reflection, be like, how many times have I tried this? 10, 15, 100? And how many times have I gotten to where I want to get to, right? I haven't. I keep doing the same pattern. So that right there should kind of, turn the light bulb on that, hey, maybe my approach needs to be a little different.
Yeah.
It's hard to come to terms with because we are emotional beings. Like we feel it. We want to feel better. We want to look better. We want
someone to tell us that or do it for us or all of these things.
Yeah. But if it hasn't worked for you in the past, that might mean it's time. What is it, like the definition of an insanity is doing something the same thing and expecting different results.
Yep.
It's going to be the same way.
Yep.
But another thing is just listen to what everybody says. Most of the professionals, like most of the people who are inspiring others and who have achieved what others want to achieve, are going to tell you the same exact thing. So if everybody's saying it, that might be a good indicator that, like, hey, I should let my ego, like, suppress my ego a little bit.
Totally.
And maybe just do those baby steps that they're talking about. Maybe I will get to where I want to get to this time.
And read those 10 pages.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Okay, last one.
Okay.
If you had a microphone that was connected to all news media outlets and the radio stations in the world, and you had 30 seconds to give humanity a message, what would you say?
Oh my gosh, 30 seconds.
I know, that's why I sent this one out before.
Well, I would say, let's see, give me...
No, I know, you're fine. You're fine.
30 seconds.
It's a very, very big question.
In regards to fitness or just...
anything, but we can gear it in the realm of health.
I would say to learn to be forgiving and empathetic with others, because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. We take things personally. We don't realize all the time that, like, I'm living in my own world, you're living in your own world.
Yeah.
I might say something that you might take offensive, but I see those situations as an opportunity to empathize with somebody and be like, you know what, that was pretty rude of him or her, but that doesn't say anything about me. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe I can, offer some sort of help to this person.
Totally.
And make his day better, because I think that we're all consumed in our own world. Egocentrism, we think everything is about us, but in reality is we're all trying to get through this life and find happiness and fulfillment. So just learning to forgive others and empathize and realize that, not everything is directed at you.
Yeah.
Not everything should be taken personally. And I think that's a good start.
Love it. It is.
If you haven't read the 4 Agreements,
oh yeah.
Have you read that?
No, I've got it and I've started it, but
probably
10 pages.
Yeah, 10 pages a day. It's probably and if you do 10 pages a day on that book, you'll read it in like less than a month. Yeah, exactly. But it's just a really good book with the 4 rules, basically saying, like, don't take things personally.
Yep, love
don't
that.
Assume, right? We assume that based on...
That's a big one, yeah.
Oh, it's huge. It's one of the worst things we can do, because, like I said, somebody might be having a bad day, so they might be a little short with you, and then you think that they have a personal problem with you.
Yeah.
And now there's conflict when there doesn't need to be. That person's having a bad day, maybe you can just check in on them.
Yeah. And not even to mention, that's conscious, like, assumptions. Think about any subconscious assumptions that we all have based off of past experiences, and won't even get into that. That's another conversation.
For sure.
But I think that's all for today. Closes it out.
Okay.
How can we find you? What platforms are you on, and what are you currently doing right now? Or what are you,
So, obviously a personal trainer. I do online coaching and in-person training. I love Muay Thai kickboxing, and that seems to be what everybody else loves to do too.
Yeah.
So if you want to let a little aggression out, learn to defend yourself, stuff like that. That's one of the big things I focus on right now. But really just self-improvement for people who are driven to perform. So athletes, love to train athletes. People who are not just looking for that quick, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds, but the people who truly want to invest that time to become that better version of themselves for others.
Yeah.
And
you offer that online if someone's not local too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very successful online coaching business. People can be kind of skeptical about it at first because most people think that they need to be in a gym with somebody 2 or 3 times a week. But I look at that as like, I can provide more coaching to you than I can in 2 hours a week.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're doing an online relationship to where we're communicating every day. And,
all the time.
You might not do every exercise perfectly, but you're going to learn. You're going to do the repetitions. You're going to learn the physical part. It's more so like the guidance through life circumstances. Oh, you're a parent that's also an entrepreneur. You don't necessarily know how to make the time to do it. Here, let me teach you that, right?
Totally.
So much more effective. Basically, everything's done through Instagram.
Yeah, okay.
Coach Corey Jones.
Instagram,
That's my IG page.
We'll tag you.
Follow me for inspiration if you'd like. But yeah, online coaching in person here at Bigger Picture.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on a next episode, and thanks for watching.